Hi everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing our build of the Rocketarium Phoenix model, scale model. In the intervening time between the first video and this one, everything is dried, so there are a few things that need to be done, and they mostly involve installing the pieces that we've already dealt with. But before we do that, I'm actually going to take care of the nose cone. So the nose cone, it's right here. This is a different kind of plastic. I'm not entirely sure what kind. It feels like 3D printed. Ooh, it's scratchy too. 3D like fiber, uh, which is fine. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but it is definitely different from the nose cones that you may be familiar with if you are a regular for Estes. They use a much harder plastic. It's like, not sure it actually is, but it feels like PVC. This isn't. Now, in general, it doesn't make much of a difference. However, one thing to be aware of, I found with previous kit that I've used, is that spray paint doesn't adhere the same way to this kind of plastic. So if you want to paint it, and in this case, we don't actually have to because the nose cone is supposed to be white, and the rest of the body is supposed to be gray. So we don't actually need it to be the same color, and we don't actually need to paint it. You definitely want to put a layer of spray paint plastic primer on this first. Anyway, this thing does need weight in the nose cone though, so throw a couple of chunks in there and then use a piece of dowel scrap, and I'm going to do my best to ram them right down into the tip of the nose cone like so. This is, by the way, not plastic, or not clay like normally I would be doing. Apparently it is plasticine. That's fun. I really can't tell the difference between this stuff and clay, so it certainly feels like clay. Works the same way too. So I'm going a couple pieces at a time. I want to have it rammed down as far as I can go. And I can actually, you probably can't see it, but I can see like the shadow of the clay when I'm holding it up like this. And I can see where my dowel is actively like pushing things down as well. So this is not like a new technique that we've never done before, but it has to be done. And as a reminder, this is not something you can just skip because you want your rocket to be lighter and fly higher. Well, while it is certainly true that adding weight to the nose cone is going to limit the maximum altitude that you can get, it is done for safety. And the reason that we put weight in the nose cone is to bring the center of gravity forward when we have a situation where the center of pressure is not right at the back of the rocket. There's a lot of science involved in this. It's just entirely too much for me just yammering when I'm putting clay into a nose cone, but since we're going to end up having fins here and fins here, there is going to be a lot of pressure. Center pressure is going to be moved forward relative to where it would be in a fairly simple design where the fins are just at the back. So this requires this step. It is not optional. And, yeah, it will cut into your rocket's altitude, but, I mean, you're building a scale model, so hopefully you're not, like, hyper concerned about how tall or how high the thing's going to go. Hopefully you're concerned more with what it looks like and if it flies decently. All right, so that's taken care of. It looks pretty good. It's like there are a couple spots I could probably put it down more, but overall, good enough. Now, we need to, the rest of this video, I think, will be trying to put in the baffle and the motor mount. The motor mount is nothing new. The motor mount goes in the back. You should always test fit things just in case. That fits nicely. I don't need to sand anything. But I just randomly picked a side, kind of. It turns out I don't know if you can see this at all, but there are little marks in this tube, and they show me where the fins are going to go. They're incredibly faint, so if you can't see them, I blame my camera, but I mean, even I can barely see them. There's two right here, and I can actually feel them because they're like etched ever so slightly into this. So this does have a preferred orientation. That's forward, that's backwards. All right, so let's get ready to go here. The instructions say that I am supposed to use the applicator, which is this cool Q-tip. I'm going to pass on that. Got plenty of wood scrap here to use instead. And I'm going to put glue at 2 3/4 inches. Now, I have at some point measured this out. Is it this one? It's this one. You can certainly, do this yourself. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the motor mount near the tube when I put it there, and I don't know basically how far in I want to put the glue. Better again to err on the side of too close to the end than too far in, because if you don't put it too far in, the mount won't ever get to the glue. So, all right, so in goes the glue. And the instructions for this suggest that I'm supposed to put this in halfway and then add the second ring of glue. And I can do that. It's kind of messy. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to put glue right by the entrance like so. And some of it's going to get smeared around by the front end. And that's okay. It won't get it all. And even if it somehow did, that's fine too, because I can always put a fillet on the end. Okay. I want the end of the tube to be flush with the end of the rocket body. So, like so. And that looks pretty nice. And I'm going to, like right now, since I have time, I'm going to put my fillet here, since I did push a lot of that glue out of the way. It's kind of hard around the engine hook, but there we go. And I can apply, extra glue elsewhere. I'm going to smear it around with my finger anyway. So, all right, little finger apparently. It's the only one that'll fit. Spread it around. Try not to get any obvious bubbles or holes in it. So don't want it out onto the exterior of the tube. All right, so that's pretty good. Now, the next part is, there's potential for real screw-ups here. This is the part where I'm going to be putting the baffle in. Now, in a previous kit anyway, that I've done from Rocketarium, the baffle actually served as a connection point for another piece of tube, which was nice because you didn't have to worry about it. This one, on the other hand, is going to go in there, and it's going to go in apparently 5.5 inches. And there's some precision required here, so they've given me a 5.5 inch piece of cut wood that I'm going to use as a spacer to push it in. Before I do that, however, the eye hook here is not just decorative. This is the anchor point where the shock cord is going to be mounted. So I absolutely need to tie the shock cord in here first, and I need to do a good job. The instructions are pretty clear about making sure you've test fit and read everything before you try this so you don't screw anything up fairly royally. The other thing is I am actually going to use the spacer, or the giant Q-tip they gave me this time, because the giant Q-tip is 5.5 inches long, or sorry, no, it is 6 inches long, and I need to put glue at 5.5 and at 6.5 inches. You might think, well, that's a problem, but I can definitely get this in, 1/2 inch. Can't get it in a whole lot more than that, but yeah. So that's what I'm going to use for application here. But before I do any of that, naturally, of course, I need to secure the shock cord to the eye hook. It says, make sure they're not as secure. You will not be able to fix it later. This is a downside to using this approach rather than the Estes one with like gluing the trapezoid thing and right near the exit. This is stronger, but can't really be fixed. Once it's in there, it's not coming out. So I'm going to tie this off. Let's just do 3 little basic knots here. My Boy Scout days were kind of non-existent, so no clue what exactly I'm tying here. Half hitches, or I don't know, but whatever. 3 just basic knots is probably fine. The instructions also suggest that, almost. Let's try that again. The instructions also suggest that I put a dab of wood glue, and it's very clear about this, not CA glue, onto the knot. I'm not entirely sure why not CA, but I assume that CA is a little aggressive, so it might damage the damage the shock cord, and we certainly wouldn't want that. Anyway, so and I'm going to put a drop of wood glue onto the knot. Well, okay. Really helpful if I was getting some glue flow here. All right. And I'm just going to kind of spread that out so that the glue is pretty well in there. Okay, I'm not going to bother letting that dry. Don't really need to be worried about that right now. Now, I am going to put 2 rings of glue inside from the front end into the tube. I need to do it at 5.5 and 6.5 inches, as previously mentioned. So I'm going to get some glue here, and I'm going to use my Q-tip, and I'm going to do the 6.5 one first. So that's going to be a little bit farther down the tube than the Q-tip is itself, which might be a little difficult to do. Oh yeah, I'm going to have to actually take this off camera because it's so far in, it's really hard for me to see. Yeah, and I am kind of bouncing the Q-tip off the sides of the walls as I'm going in, and I've left a lot of extraneous glue places it doesn't belong. Hopefully I get enough glue in here, because yeah, I'm not doing a good job at all. Well, such is life. The other danger here is that if I get too much glue on the side as I'm putting the glue down there, I might end up making it very difficult to push the baffle all the way down to where it needs to go. I suspect it is not terribly important that I get the baffle as far down as the instructions want, but I'm going to do my best anyway. All right. So, yep, that's not good quality imaging, but you can see I got glue all over the place, but most of it should be down far enough. All right. Last but not least, aft end the baffle. Yeah, it's going to go in like this. And now I need to push with my wood stick. And yep. What I'm going to do here, I think, is I'm going to turn it upside down, and gravity's going to help. Boop. There we go. Okay. I don't know if that's going to look like anything either. What do you think? Well, that's actually not that bad a shot, all things being equal. It did kind of smush the glue off the sides, which is nice. It seems to be in place, and it's down where it ought to be. Okay. Well, that went reasonably well. Honestly, it's a whole lot easier to put the baffles in if they are being used as couplers between 2 different pieces of tubing, like I've done in other kits for Rocketarium. By the way, this is as far as we're going to get in this video, but as a final comment about these baffles. So they are nice. I mean, it is nice to not have to use as much wadding or whatever recovery stuff you use. I don't know, I don't completely trust it. Why that is, I don't know. I probably should because it is fairly ingenious. But you can actually buy or make, if you're feeling particularly gutsy, you could make your own baffles and you can put them in. You can't really retrofit anything that you've already built. I mean, you could, I guess, but it'd be unpleasant. But you can buy, Rocketarium sells those individual packs, and you can add them in to your rockets as you build them if this is something that you like. I personally am happy to put dog barf or wadding in, I guess. I mean, dog barf is, for those of you who don't use it, it is cellulosic insulation that you can buy at the hardware store. And you can buy like a cubic yard of it for 20 bucks. And a cubic yard of it is going to last me the rest of my natural life in all likelihood. So it's not like it's a major investment. Wadding, of course, does get kind of pricey, but yeah, cellulosic insulation is dirt cheap and probably doesn't justify the expense of retrofitting anything to put baffles in it. That being said, though, I mean, the baffles are nice, and having a better anchor point for your shock cord than just a piece of scrap paper taped or glued rather into the tube up here, maybe it's something you want to consider. I don't know. All right, so that takes care of well, this section of the video. Next, we need to work on the fins, so that's something to look forward to, and I will see you in that video.